off the cuff. You know, PS has said I'm a politician. I thought I left politics, but anyway, I am here. You can't really, I tell people you can't remove a monkey from the bush and make the monkey a goat. The monkey will always remain a monkey. So the reason why we are gathered here today is twofold. One is to pick out for note the key highlights of the 2025 medium-term debt strategy and to exchange insights and ideas as we disseminate our 2025 medium-term debt management strategy. Our gathering will therefore provide all esteemed stakeholders opportunity to further strengthen public debt management. The medium-term debt strategy is an annual publication that informs the government decisions regarding public borrowing and public debt management, as well as the desired structure of public debt portfolio in pursuit of our cost minimization, risk management, and sustainability over the medium term. The medium-term debt strategy is prepared pursuant to Section 33 of the Public Finance Management Act of 2012. The strategy recognizes that a diversified public debt structure and a deepening of the domestic debt market is necessary to mitigate against exchange rate risks on Kenya's external public debt. And I think you will remember there is a clear example, a recent example of the effect of this that we cannot forget. That by January 2024, our external debt stock was about 6 trillion shillings. Today, it is 5 trillion. It's not that we have paid back those loans. It is foreign exchange effect. So the 2025 medium-term debt strategy has been developed to guide public debt management over the period of 2025 to 2028. It outlines the strategies and initiatives aimed at minimizing costs and management of risks of public debt over the medium term. The 2025 medium-term debt strategy seeks to gradually reduce the stock of treasury bills in the medium term while lengthening maturity of public debt instruments and deepening the domestic debt market through issuance of medium to long-term debt securities accompanied by debt market reforms. From the external sources, the strategy targets a mix of concessional and commercial borrowing. I must at this juncture highlight the fact that the medium-term debt strategy analysis takes into account outstanding public debt and projected borrowing and the debt service in the context of the current and future macroeconomic environment and the conditions in the international and domestic capital markets. Ladies and gentlemen, as at the end of June 2024, the stock of public debt and publicly guaranteed debt was Kenya shillings 10.5 trillion shillings. This is 65.7% of our GDP. Today, that figure has risen. We know the latest data is that we have a total outstanding debt of 11, or debt stock of 11.02 trillion shillings. And this is equivalent, this one of June 2024, is equivalent to USD 81.7 billion in nominal terms, of which domestic debt was 5.4 trillion shillings, while external debt was 5.17 trillion shillings. The external public debt comprises multilateral, bilateral, and commercial creditors, while domestic public debt comprises treasury bonds and bills. In fact, out of the 11.02 trillion shillings of public debt, as at the latest data, forget about this historical data, about 5.9 is in form of domestic debts and 5.09 is in form of external debt. Out of that external debt, 2.83 is to multilaterals, and 1.09 is owing to the bilaterals, and then 1.17 is the amount owing to commercial, in terms of commercial debts. As at the end of June 2024, again, treasury bonds accounted for 85% of total debt, domestic public debt, while treasury bills accounted for 11.4% of total domestic public debt. That percentage has not changed much from the latest data that I checked. Speaking to external debt, multilateral debt accounted for 53.9% of total external debt, and the bulk of it is owed to World Bank. The high proportion of multilateral and bilateral debt reflects the government's deliberate strategy of maximizing the use of concessional financing and minimizing the use of commercial debt. Government-guaranteed public debt as at the end of June 2024 amounted to 100 billion shillings. The debts are held by Kenya Ports Authority, KPA, Kenya Electricity Generation Company, and Kenya Airways. Those are the three major parastatals where the government has guaranteed debts. The redemption profile shows that 18.6% of domestic debt will mature by June 2025, mainly due to short-term treasury bills or government securities falling due. Overall, the repayment schedule is bunched for the next 9 years due to large share of treasury bills and near-term maturities treasury bonds, international sovereign bonds, and syndicated loans. I will speak to that a little bit later. The recent debt sustainability analysis indicates that Kenya's public debt is sustainable, but with a high risk of debt distress. The present value of public debt was 63% of GDP against the benchmark debt threshold of 55%. It is key to note that the National Treasury has until 1st of November 2029 to bring the present value of public debt within the threshold to comply with the law. Policy initiatives by the government are necessary to diversify and or expand export base and to build gross international reserves to improve the external debt sustainability ratios. So, ladies and gentlemen, the 2025 medium-term debt strategy aims to reduce debt costs and risks by sourcing 25% gross borrowing from external sources and 75% from domestic sources over the medium term. We must be alive to the fact that external sources are shrinking by the day. The policy pronouncements in major economies, the world leading economy, you are aware, has already pronounced itself through executive orders. We are no longer looking forward to much support from that direction, and therefore we have to look inward and without, again, destabilizing our domestic market. From the domestic sources, the strategy is to gradually reduce the stock of treasury bills while lengthening debt maturity and issuance of medium to long-term debt securities. On the external end, the target is to have a mix of concessional optimization and minimal commercial borrowing. The implementation of the strategy will reduce the cost of public debt by reducing nominal debt to GDP to 57.8% from the current 63.7%, and the present value of debt to GDP from 58.1% to 52.8% over the implementation period, that is by 2027-2028 financial year. The expected composition of public debt at the end of the strategy period will be 45% external and 55% domestic. The government will implement the medium-term debt strategy through the annual borrowing plan. And the cost and risk outcome characteristics in the 2025 medium-term debt strategy will be evaluated semi-annually and annually against sustainability threshold indicators to determine deviations and suggest mitigating measures. The evolving public debt structure and fiscal debt deficit will inform review of strategy for management of costs and risk of public debt going forward. In addition, any deviations will be used to inform strategy review and formulation of the medium-term debt strategy in the next cycle. Ladies and gentlemen, Kenya's public debt management landscape has faced several challenges, though. This includes sovereign credit rating downgrade that negatively impacted the financial terms of new commercial borrowing. Remember the rating mid-last year. Such rating downgrades may lead to increased borrowing costs, limited access to credit markets, low investor confidence, currency depreciation, and debt sustainability risk. Another challenge is the external factors such as global market volatility and interest rate fluctuations. These affect the timing and potential cost of debt management operations. The high interest environment, both globally and in the domestic debt market, has also resulted in high debt service costs. The high interest on government securities was as a result of tight monetary policy environment, which is expected to continue to ease since the macroeconomic environment has greatly improved. However, the above challenges notwithstanding, the government will explore possibility of liability management options with the aim of extending the maturity of existing debt to reduce near-term financing risks and reduce the cost of debt service. In addition, measures to support a steady and strong outlook for exports will play a major role in supporting external debt sustainability for public debt to continue on a sustainable path. The government will continue the fiscal consolidation efforts to slow the rate of debt accumulation. Further, the government will continue to undertake reforms to reduce the cost and minimize risk of public debt, while also improving the institutional structure and policies to ensure efficient and effective public debt management operations. In addition, the government will continue to implement reforms aimed at promoting development and deepening of the domestic market to reduce cost of borrowing domestically. In conclusion, let me say that partnership between the government and market participants, including regulators, can lead to more effective market development and continuous improvement of Kenya's public financial management framework. Transparency and sustainability require supportive regulatory frameworks, investor protection, and innovative ways of doing business. With this, ladies and gentlemen, let me take this opportunity before I go to my off-the-cuff remarks to express my gratitude to my team at the National Treasury. I have a wonderful team and a fantastic team. I am supported very strongly and ably by my Principal Secretary, Dr. Chris Kipto. And I have also a debt management team led by Rafael Otieno. I don't think Rafael is around. But as I always say, Treasury is a team of equals. I am just first among equals. I don't know whether Chris is second among equals. But we are a team and we work very, very well. And I'm sure that we will still continue to serve in our positions to make life better for Kenyans. Because the moment we manage debt efficiently, effectively, the beneficiary is the people of Kenya. With our collective determination and dedication of all those present here today, we can build markets that are transparent, efficient, and impactful, capable of driving economic growth and fostering sustainable development. So I promised off-the-cuff remarks before I go to my last paragraph. You know, we have come from far. Sometimes we forget very fast. How did we end up where we are? I am aware that, yes, there could have been decisions that were made at one point, decisions that probably have put us to high debt risk. More particularly, and without feeling shy about it, some decisions that were taken from 2014, coming all the way to 2019, have put us to serious debt distress. But we should not forget that there was a period in this country, and not just this country, the entire world faced challenges of COVID. At that time, a lot of decisions had to be taken to keep Kenya afloat. Every nation, every economy was concerned about the survival. Actually, that time it was basically survival of the people. And so decisions were taken. Certain loans were taken, which now we have to pay. And the government is in perpetuity. Let me tell you, it is interesting that our loan maturity, our loan portfolio, I always keep on drawing it in the air, that it is like this, meaning there is some peak somewhere. And unfortunately for us, who are in positions of decision making, We have just reached, the peak has just been reached when we are in offices. If you look at our debt portfolio in terms of, I don't want to talk much about our domestic debt. In terms of external debts, the most expensive debt is usually the commercial debt. And that commercial debt, up to the last liability management, which we did with the support of our leader rangers here, we had 6.6 billion outstanding in terms of Eurobond. And out of that 6.6 billion, 5.1 is supposed to be paid between now and 2034. So this is the period of paying 5.1 out of 6.6. 900 million, which was to mature by 2027, although 300 is to be paid this year, 300 was to be paid 2026, 300 in 2027. And the following year, 2028, we have $1 billion to pay of another Eurobond. So you have 2029, 2030 to breathe a bit. 2031, you have $1.5 billion. 2032, you have $1.2 billion. Then you rest in 2033. And 2034, you have another $1 billion. So if you add all that, it's 5.1 within that period of time. And the syndicated loans peer, which constitutes about over 320-something billion, again, this year alone, September, we have two. One, $200 million to pay, and another one, 75 million euros to pay. Then the following month of October, you have $46 million to pay. If you translate those three figures that I've just mentioned in terms of dollars, it's about $960 million this year. And it is the same story up to 2030 for syndicated loans. So this is the, if you are to call it, in terms, you know, I'm also a fisherman. This is the most turbulent period of our history. And that is why when I see people attack the government consistently or failure to deliver, then I recognize that we have not appreciated where we are. The country has not appreciated that this regime, this government, I'm told regime is dictatorial. This government, this administration is in office at very tough times. You know, you are coming to an office, and actually I pitied Kenya Kwanza, but I'm now in it. You are coming into office, and you have a deficit of almost $1 trillion in your budget. Chris, is that not correct? You come into office with over 900 billion budget deficit. And that is why Chris said the first 2020, 2021, the deficit was 8.1, it moved to 6.2 the following year, moved to 5.6, moved to 5.3, moved now, we wanted 3.5, which I think was a crazy imagination. And it almost brought civil unrest in this country. But now we are working with 4.9. What I'm trying to say is that we are at times that are not very easy. And we must show commitment to solving this problem. So how then do we solve this problem? The strategy, to me, is very simple. Number one is to consistently demonstrate that you are reducing your budget deficit to GDP ratio over the period to reach the target of at least maximum of 3%. If we can demonstrate that in the period, the medium term, going to 2027-28, we will reduce our budget deficit to 3. That is a starting point of reaching debt sustainability threshold that is acceptable and that we can be comfortable with. We cannot stop borrowing. It is a lie if we start saying, and Chris there, I want to disagree with you, we cannot balance our budget now. If you balance your budget now, you will not offer services to the people. And no one will accept to pay taxes if they are not receiving services. So we are in a catch-22 situation. You have debts to pay. You want to pay those debts by reducing expenditure. At the same time, people who are helping you to pay the debts are the same citizens who must demand services. If you don't give them services, they have no reason to pay taxes. And so we must balance these two to make sure that we gradually, consistently reduce our budget deficit as we offer services to the people of Kenya. Number two is to liability manage our debts, especially the ones that are maturing. Because if you ask me, I don't think Kenya has a problem of debt payment. In terms of debt sustainability, and sometimes we disagree with our development partners when they push us that we don't have ability to pay our debts. We tell them, no, you are wrong. The debt sustainability for Kenya is perfect. The only problem we have is that the maturing of debts is concentrated within a short period of time, which we agree, even with IMF when they question that this is something to work on. So long as we can demonstrate that we can manage our liability in the short term between now and 2034. By the way, I've realized that 2034 is not a very long period. Yeah? So 2034 is a very short period. I don't want to talk much. Allow me to end with this. My pet area: fiscal discipline, efficiency, stopping theft. Let me now be blunt. We have called this thing control of budget, corruption. This is theft, plunder of public resources. Pardon? Uizi. I like the way you have even made it easier. In uizi ya mali ya umma. I want to repeat what I said yesterday. President Uhuru Kenyatta said, every day we are losing 2 billion. I saw in social media some people asking, does it mean we are stealing? Kenyans are stealing even over the weekend. Kenyans don't sleep. They even steal at night, I'm sure. Many meetings you see people holding in hotels is just to cut deals. Hakuna kitu ingine. To plan how to steal money. Very interesting. And you are the same ones who are complaining when you are being taxed. But now the problem is your greed exposes everybody, including the innocent. And you know the people who can steal are only those who matter. Ordinary people, ukijaribu kuiba utashikwa siku hiyo hiyo. Now, if it is true that we are stealing 2 billion per day, and I keep on asking, let us assume that, Salim, you will forgive me for this, that we cannot stop stealing. Let us make that very outrageous assumption, because I know we can. If we can't stop, and we decide to reduce, it's a conscious decision that I don't know whether we take a referendum and we say, or we go to church and confess and we say, Mungu utatusame, lakini tuna reduce wizi wetu mpaka nusu. If I've been stealing 1,000 from now, I make a commitment, New Year resolution, it is 500 shillings. You will reduce theft to 1 billion or by 1 billion. And you will save 365 billion in a year. Do we really need to go to IMF, World Bank, to wait for executive decision of Trump? We will not. But what if now we decide we want to be satisfied with what we have? We are stealing zero. All of us as a country, we are not stealing anything. And then we save this 2 billion per day. We will save over 700. In fact, our total deficit will be covered by our own taxes, and we will not borrow any money. That is a possibility. That is what I want to leave you with. to think through it. We are putting up systems. Chris here is chairing a committee which is implementing e-procurement. We'll put that in place. We have a system in place. We are putting in place single account, treasury account, etc. It can be flashed. But these people are technology savvy. They will cut corners. So the most important thing is your personality. It's not the systems that we put in place. I've been discussing with the KRA staff, and you realize that we have systems, although we are talking of improving them, but even the systems that we have are still being abused. And it is very painful that you find people making claims which they should not make. You find people filing claims, creating businesses. You know, there is this input and output tax. With the help of some of our staff, some, not all. What they do, you create a company that does not exist. You just create John Mbadi company. Does not exist, gives you an invoice that does not exist. That is input tax. Then you have an output tax. You have sold nothing. You go and claim money from KRA, and you are paid back. And you did not pay anything. Business people colluding with our staff. Yet there is a system, Chris. So systems will not solve these problems if we don't take conscious decisions as a country to move forward and remember that the money we are stealing belongs to us. We make that deliberate decision. My final example I will give you, I keep on giving this example. Those who have appeared in my events, probably now you are bored with it, but those who have not heard it, please let me tell you this story. I was in Singapore some time back. So I went to have my lunch in a restaurant. After eating, I realized I didn't have their local currency. I had US dollars. So they were not accepting US dollars. You have to exchange it. So I inquired whether there was a bureau around there for changing the money. And they told me, yes, there is one here. Now I want you to see the difference. There is one here, but here it is more expensive. So you can go, there's a place where you can get better rates. Imagine someone telling you, don't exchange with us here, you can go somewhere, about 300 meters away. I don't know whether that is easy in Kenya. I wanted to start from that point. I don't know whether that is easy here. I'm yet to face such environment in Kenya. Then, when I was shown where I was supposed to go and get my change, get the money exchanged, it's about 300 meters away, and also you go and get your change there. So I walked. As I was walking to that place, I'm looking back to see, have they given me someone to take me there? I was alone. I went, got my change, came back and paid. I don't know how many of you, if you are running your business, you would allow anyone to step out of the door with your bill, to go 300 meters away, to get foreign currency exchanged, and come and pay you. You would say, I will give you someone to take you. Not to show you where you are going, but to watch so that you can come back. That is how the environment, and there they have, it is not even ringing. It doesn't even come to their thoughts that you could run away. But here, the default setting is that you will not come back. So you must, even if you are a pastor, they will not allow you to go. Even if you are dressed in those robes, you are a pastor, they can see this is a religious person. You will not be allowed to walk with the money. That is how society shapes behavior. So I want us to just change our mindset. Sorry I've taken longer than I thought I would take, but I think this is a topic that elicits a lot of discussion and debate. And when we get into the discussions, please let us ask ourselves how going forward we can make our debt sustainable. The people who are in this room, you are the ones who have been tasked with this responsibility. Kenyans are looking up to us. There is nobody else, imagine. It's not even the president at State House. The president at State House is waiting for what Treasury is advising him should be done to manage our debt. We have it in our hands. Either we blow it up or we help the country move forward and we leave a legacy in whatever level, in whatever capacity, that when we were at the Treasury, we were the people who made the worst situation better for the people of Kenya and for posterity. And we are doing it not for ourselves, but for our children, grandchildren, and the future generations to come. Remember, even when you are gone, people will still talk about you if you did something positive. I still hear people talk about Tom Mboya, isn't it? There is something probably did in the Ministry of Economic Planning. People still talk about some Kenyans who did good things. Let them, may we work hard so that we are talked about positively, not negatively as people who brought the economy down. God bless you.